Inside Jay Leno's hidden car empire. The most insane celebrity collection ever built. The first thing you notice isn't the cars. It's the feeling that time itself has been parked in rows. Most luxury collections scream for attention. Bright lights, social media angles, cameras waiting outside. This one doesn't. From the outside, the building looks ordinary, almost boring. A warehouse tucked away in California, quiet enough that you could drive past it without realizing that inside sits one of the largest and most respected automotive collections on the planet. No flashy signs, no dramatic entrance. And that's the point. Because this isn't built for applause. It's built for obsession. Inside, the air smells like leather, warm metal, and history. Engines that once ruled roads and racetracks now sit side by side, polished but alive, waiting. The space feels more like a living museum than a celebrity garage. Rows of machines stretch across the floor, each carrying decades of engineering decisions, design risks, and stories. There are around 180 cars and more than 160 motorcycles in the collection, spread across an enormous facility that functions as both workspace and archive. That number alone sounds ridiculous, but it still doesn't explain what makes this place different. Most celebrity collections focus on the newest hypercars or the loudest status symbols. This collection moves in every direction at once. You can stand in front of something built before World War I, turn around and stare at a modern supercar capable of speeds engineers once thought impossible. And unlike many collections where cars sit untouched, almost everything here runs. That detail changes everything. Because these cars aren't trophies, they're machines meant to move. One of the first icons you notice is the 1994 McLaren F1. Built in limited numbers, once the fastest production car in the world, and now worth staggering amounts of money, it sits quietly as if it's just another car. Most collectors would hide something like this behind glass. Here it gets driven. That philosophy repeats everywhere. Cars are maintained constantly. Mechanics move quietly between rows. Engines start. Fluids are checked. Tires rotated. Nothing is allowed to die. A few steps away sits something that feels like it belongs in another timeline entirely. The 1963 Chrysler turbine car. Only a handful survived, making it one of the rarest production experiments ever attempted by Chrysler. Its engine sounds more like an airplane than a car, reminding you that there was once a moment when automakers believed the future would be powered by turbines instead of pistons. This is where the collection starts to feel different from normal luxury content. It isn't just expensive, it's curious. Across the room sits the Blastoline Special, often called the tank car, one of the most unusual machines ever built. Oversized, aggressive, powered by an engine designed for military use, it looks almost impossible to drive. And yet it exists here not because it's practical, but because it's fascinating. That's the hidden rule of this garage. If something is interesting enough, it belongs. Walking deeper inside feels like moving through chapters of history. A 1906 Stanley Steamer Vanderbilt Cup racer sits proudly, representing the early days of motorsport when speed itself was an experiment. Nearby stands the 1937 Duesenberg Walker Coupe, a vehicle so rare and prestigious that it's often mentioned as one of the crown jewels of the entire collection. Its bodywork looks more like sculpture than transportation, and yet, like everything else here, it isn't frozen in time. It runs. That contrast defines the space, a pre-war luxury masterpiece parked near machines from the turbocharged modern era, past and future breathing the same air. Then your eyes land on something instantly recognizable, a 1955 Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing. Its doors rise upward like wings mid-flight, one of the most iconic designs ever created by Mercedes-Benz. Unlike museum examples, this one isn't sealed away. It gets driven, restored, used. Nearby sits another deeply personal favorite, a 1955 Buick Roadmaster, a car tied to early memories long before fame arrived. And that's where the emotional center of the collection starts to show. Not everything here exists because it's rare. Some things exist because they matter personally. That balance between historical importance and personal attachment makes the collection feel human instead of calculated. Move further and the style changes again. A Lamborghini Countach stands sharp and dramatic, representing the excess and ambition of 1980s design from Lamborghini. Nearby, a powerful Mercedes-Benz 600 compressor, modified beyond factory standards, shows how customization can turn luxury into personal expression. Then comes one of the strangest creations in the building, the GM EcoJet. Built in collaboration with General Motors, this one-off vehicle uses turbine power and represents pure experimentation. It wasn't built because the market demanded it. It was built because someone wanted to know if it could exist. Everywhere you look, engineering history unfolds. What surprises visitors most is how little the collection feels like a financial portfolio. Yes, the total value easily reaches into hundreds of millions. Some cars alone are worth what entire companies earn in a year. But the atmosphere doesn't feel like investment strategy. It feels like curiosity made permanent. Cars aren't arranged by price. A $1 million exotic might sit beside a vehicle that cost far less, but represents an important piece of automotive evolution. And that rearranges how luxury feels. Instead of being about showing off wealth, it becomes about understanding craftsmanship. That authenticity helped turn the garage into something bigger than a private collection. Over time, it evolved into a media phenomenon, with episodes and videos exploring not just cars, but the stories behind them. Manufacturers bring rare prototypes. Engineers discuss design choices. Enthusiasts from every background tune in, because watching someone genuinely excited about a machine feels different from watching someone just pose next to one. The passion is visible. When a car starts, the reaction isn't rehearsed. It's real curiosity, and that authenticity makes the luxury more believable. Walk past another row and you'll see American performance icons. Muscle cars that once ruled highways sit next to European exotics. The contrast is deliberate. One represents raw power, the other precision engineering. Together, they tell a complete story. The motorcycles add another dimension entirely. Classic bikes from early decades sit alongside modern machines, showing how design evolved across 2 wheels as well as 4. Even restoration projects are part of the spectacle. Some vehicles arrive barely functional, forgotten by time. Months or years later, they leave the workshop reborn, engines running like they did decades earlier. That process, the restoration, the preservation, might actually be the most luxurious part, because restoring history costs time more than money, and time is the rarest luxury of all. As the hours pass inside this warehouse, the atmosphere shifts. You stop seeing individual cars and start seeing a timeline. Human ambition laid out in metal and rubber. Engineers chasing speed, designers chasing beauty, builders chasing impossible ideas. The collection becomes less about ownership and more about storytelling. That's why the McLaren F1 matters. Why the Chrysler turbine matters. Why a steam racer from 1906 can sit beside modern hypercars and still feel relevant. Each one represents a moment when someone believed they were building the future, and now those futures coexist in one place. Outside, the world changes fast. Trends appear and disappear. New luxury products replace old ones every year. Social media rewards whatever looks newest and loudest. Inside here, none of that matters. Age doesn't reduce value. Sometimes it increases it. That idea challenges everything people assume about luxury collections. It's not about always owning the newest thing. It's about preserving the things that mattered. As evening light fades through high windows, reflections stretch across paintwork. Chrome glows softly. Shadows move between rows like silent reminders that every machine once roared loudly on roads that no longer exist. And somewhere in the building, an engine fires up. Not for cameras, not for attention, just because someone wanted to hear it run again. That sound explains everything. This collection exists because of love for machinery, not because of fame. The fame simply gave it room to grow. And maybe that's why people are drawn to it. Because in a world where luxury often feels staged, this place feels honest. The cars aren't props, they're companions. Tools of memory, pieces of history kept alive by someone who refuses to let them disappear. There is no final goal here, no complete set, no moment when the collection is finished. New discoveries still arrive. Rare finds still appear through private networks. Vehicles thought lost get rescued and restored. The empire keeps growing quietly. And that quiet growth might be the most impressive part of all. Because while many celebrity lifestyles are built around being seen, this one would still exist even if no one ever looked at it. The engines don't roar to prove wealth. They roar because someone loves hearing them alive. And in a world obsessed with new money and loud displays, that might be the rarest luxury left. The doors close, the lights dim. Rows of machines settle into silence again, waiting for the next morning, the next drive, the next story. Not as objects, but as living pieces of history preserved one engine at a time,